Okay, I didn't think anybody could annoy me as much as US Ambassador Pete Hoekstra. But this next guy might be close. His name is Chris Swonger. He's the CEO of the Distilled Spirits Council of the United States. You might remember him from one of my early reports on the Kentucky bourbon industry. He's the one that called Canadians boneheaded. At first, I wasn't sure if it was aimed at us, but you in the comments made it clear that it definitely was. Today, I have an interview he did with CBC. In it, he complains about the industry suffering because Canadians pulled their alcohol off the shelves. But listen closely, because the gaslighting in this interview is impossible to ignore. Before we start, today's backdrop is from Paul. He sent in this photo from Neck Point Park in Nanaimo on Vancouver Island. Thanks for sending this over, Paul. Now, before we start, I'm going to tee this up for those of you who might be hearing about Chris Swonger for the first time. I'm going to give a quick reminder of some of his previous interviews about what's being said about his industry.
Just say this, the spirits industry between the United States and the EU is so intertwined. We're together on this. There is no light between us. And we think there's a great opportunity for the president to lead. He's a great deal maker. Of course, we all know that. And there could be just a great opportunity to take this issue off the table. And really unfortunate that the EU did what they did. We completely support and recognize the president's leadership in support of fair and reciprocal trade. And really, our industry is the model for that. Our industry thrives. We are able to export in 51 markets. But switching back to the US and the EU and some of the challenges our industry is experiencing, certainly with Canada and Mexico and so forth. Really, our industry is the model for fair and reciprocal trade, and we're going to need the president's help and support to get after this. And it's a terrible word, but it's a little bit boneheaded. They've lost $500 million in revenue.
Okay, so he definitely did call us Canadians boneheaded. And in this interview, you notice he brings up the $500 million figure again. So now that you got a feel for who this guy is and the attitude he brings, and probably who he voted for, let's roll the CBC interview.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford says his province isn't backing down from its ban on American alcohol anytime soon. That despite calls from a U.S. liquor group to put American booze back on Canadian shelves.
If there's a deal, another USMCA deal, which I don't think is going to happen for the next few months, but you never know with President Trump. He could pull the carpet out from underneath us in a heartbeat like he has before. Or they get rid of their tariffs, and then we'll bring the booze back into the LCBO. And if they don't, then they aren't getting any booze on our shelves.
I'm really glad to hear this, and I really hope our provincial governments, with the exception of Alberta and Saskatchewan, stand firm on keeping U.S. alcohol off our shelves. But we have to face the facts here. At some point in the distant future, U.S. alcohol will end up being back on the shelves. And when this happens, that's when Canadians need to show their strength. That's when we prove that we're holding the line and we're refusing to buy their crappy alcohol.
Chris Swonger is the president and CEO of the Distilled Spirits Council of the United States, and he joins me now. Hi, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So Ontario Premier Doug Ford said today that the province does not have any plans to bring American alcohol back. He is taking a hard line. He says until the American tariffs are lifted or there's a renegotiated free trade deal, there will be no U.S. booze. What's your reaction to that, sir?
Well, first and foremost, let me say how much we appreciate the Prime Minister Carney's efforts last Friday to remove the tariffs on American distilled spirits and American whiskey. Those tariffs have been on for about 6 or 7 months, and the U.S. hadn't applied tariffs in return, and we're thankful of that. So great leadership by the Prime Minister for sure. And let me just say, on behalf of the distilled spirits industry, and I would invoke that the Canadian and the U.S. distilled spirits industry is an industry of one.
No, it's not an industry of one. Sure, in the past, U.S. alcohol companies thought they could always rely on exporting to Canada. Maybe that relationship worked back then, but it's a little bit different now. It's been almost 8 or 9 months, I don't know exactly, and Canadians have adjusted to not having U.S. alcohol on the shelves. We're not seeing massive protests because Jim Beam isn't available. Nobody is marching the streets over that. What it shows is simple. We are not dependent on your industry. Canada's alcohol market can move forward without U.S. products.
Many Americans love great Canadian whiskey, just like many Canadians appreciate and love American whiskey as well. And look, I recognize there's a lot of emotions invoked in the broader national politics going on between our two great governments, but this industry is really should be immune from all of that, and it's providing economic harm, no doubt, to American distillers who love the Canadian people and want to export their great brands and share these great distilled spirits products with Canadian people.
Okay, so why should his industry, the US alcohol industry, be immune to all of this when no other industry is? Why only yours? Is alcohol somehow more important than lumber, steel, and the auto industry? What makes yours so special, other than the fact that it gets people drunk? This is exactly why I'm not a fan of this guy. He's basically saying, I voted for the president, I supported him, he hit my industry and every other industry, but only mine should be immune to the tariffs and the boycotts because it's hurting my bottom line. He doesn't care about fellow Americans who are working in the lumber, steel, farming, or any other sector that is also affected. All he cares about is protecting his own. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me.
And at the same time, many Americans love Canadian distilled spirits as well. So I recognize there's a lot of emotion, but this industry really should be immune from it because it's affecting the hospitality economies for both the great country of Canada and the United States.
Are you putting any pressure on the Trump administration to drop the tariffs that they have placed on Canada and to make nice with our country?
Listen, we're working very, very hard.
In plain language, that deflection of a yes or no question translates to a no. In plain language, that deflection of a yes or no question translates to a no. He hasn't done anything to push his own administration to change their ways. Instead, he's pointing the finger at Canada, trying to get us to fix the problems that were caused by the guy that he voted for.
Trying to help the Trump administration appreciate and understand the importance of our industry as it relates to here in the United States, of course, but also because we're an industry of distinctive products and we're not widgets. There are broader issues that are being debated related to energy, lumber, dairy, and all of the above. In the little old distilled spirits industry, we try to stay in our lane, but
He just brushed off the other industries that are just as important, maybe even more important, than one built on just getting people drunk. To me, there are plenty of other industries that would deserve immunity long before his. Let's see how he continues to justify it.
we are doing our best to help the Trump administration understand how our industry is an industry of distinctive products. And we're an industry that is intertwined together. And we are working very closely with Spirits Canada, and that is the Distilled Spirits Council's counterpart, where we're a line of one. And we know there and appreciate that there's a lot of emotion. When I've participated in some of the media in Canada, I've gotten a lot of tough emails back. And
Oh, interesting. So this guy's been getting tough emails because of his stance on what Canada did to his liquor industry. And remember, this was a move in retaliation to his president's rhetoric and unreasonable policies. It's not surprising that his inbox is filling up with angry messages. Now, I'm not going to be posting his email here, but in reality, if you do a quick Google search for Chris Swonger's email, I'm sure you won't have much trouble finding it.
I'm just, the best way to kind of bring things back together is an American and Canadian to have a great Canadian whiskey and a great American whiskey and have a cocktail together. And hopefully our two governments can do that in due course.
Speaking of those tough emails, the U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, said President Trump thinks Canadians are mean and nasty for leading a liquor boycott. Is that how you feel? Are Canadians mean and nasty for saying no to American booze?
No, of course not. No. Our brothers and sisters from Canada, we're all one big North American family. And
I know I'm interrupting a lot, but this guy keeps saying things that I'm sure are pissing off a lot of you watching too. And to answer his statement, no, we're not one big family. In fact, we're actually realizing that this family was never a two-way thing to begin with. His motivation is money. It's clear as day. He doesn't care about Canadians. He doesn't care about what his president or the administration is doing to Canada and the rest of the world. All he cares about is whether the countries keep buying his alcohol.
The economic harm on both sides of the border is significant. We understand as the provinces, at least some of the provinces, have committed to taking and keeping American distilled spirits out of the state stores. Even though we appreciate Saskatchewan and Alberta, they've decided to reverse that. The provinces have lost $500 million in Canadian dollars in revenue because distilled spirits bring a lot of revenue to the government, right? And
Well, money isn't everything. Right now, we're proving that sovereignty, respect, and honor of our country means far more than that 500 million you keep stating that we're losing. And this is where Canada differs from the US. They're driven by money, not just him, but a lot of Americans are as well. That's what their culture has been built on. Money first, everything else second. Canadians and our allies, we see things differently. For us, values come first, and money comes after.
And our business has been impacted by 65% here in the United States, but we also understand Canadian distilled spirits has been impacted by 12%. So it's economic harm on both sides of the border. And this industry is a precious industry, hardworking people. And, I understand that Premier Ford had made those comments today and not planning to act until a trade agreement is negotiated, but our industry has thrived on both sides of the border without trade barriers and without tariffs for many, many, many years. And I had the privilege of representing many of great American distilled spirits products, Canadian distilled spirits products.
Does this guy really think holding his hand to his chest is going to make him look more sincere? Okay, maybe I'm a little bit out of line on that one. But let's be clear. This isn't a precious industry. Funny enough, I realize the president loves to use the word precious too. Either way, I can think of dozens of other industries that are far more valuable than the alcohol industry. Just a little bit longer. The interview is almost done.
And I'm telling you, in your great audience, this industry shouldn't be involved. We can be an easy target because the iconic nature of our industry, but we do hope the provinces would really reconsider and let's get back to making toast as opposed to imposing tariffs on both sides of the government.
All right, well, we'll see how it goes. Thank you, Chris Swonger, President of the Distilled Spirits Council of the United States. I appreciate you coming on, sir, and sharing your thoughts.
So my question for you, after watching this guy's interview, how do you feel about it? For me, and this is just my opinion, it makes me want to boycott US alcohol even more. Because what I see here is a guy who doesn't give a shit about anyone else but his own bottom line, or his industry's bottom line. Not even about other American industries that are also being affected. And that's why so many Canadians have already joined the boycott on US alcohol. Well, it's not even on our shelves, so we have no choice. Except for Alberta and Saskatchewan. But regardless of that, we've shown we don't need it on our shelves, and we're doing just fine without it. Now, sure, I know there might be other US liquor companies out there that didn't vote for this. But the problem is, this guy is speaking on behalf of your industry. And in my opinion, he's actually doing your whole industry a disservice. So what's my takeaway on this interview? Number one, and there's a big one, not having their alcohol on our shelves is still causing a serious problem for them. He wouldn't be doing this interview if it wasn't. And it's good to see that even our international allies are joining the boycott against the US alcohol too. Number two, the interview really showed me that he doesn't care at all about where the root cause of the problem lies, which is his president. The deflection of responsibility is obvious. The root cause is easy to see. And this guy is the perfect example of getting exactly what you voted for. So for me, this just confirms what we're dealing with when it comes to our neighbors down south. It also shows where we need to focus on our friendships and partnerships moving forward. I'll be more than happy to keep drinking my bottle of Crown Royal from Canada and Lagavulin 16 from Scotland. Before I wrap this up, if you're wondering where the cats are today, my wife took them out on a field trip. So this one is a cat-free video. I'm sorry to disappoint those who are waiting for the meows. If you found this video helpful, hit the like and subscribe button to get the message out there to more people, and share it with your friends as well. And if you're still here and you want to see more of my videos, check out the ones that are showing up on your screen now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.